Flip to Freedom, episode number 79. Hello again, this is Sean Terry from the Flip to Freedom podcast, and we are on episode number 79. And if you are joining us for the very first time, I'd like to welcome you and let you know that I have put this podcast together for you to help you escape the 9-to-5, get out of the rat race, be done with corporate America, be done with a Monday job, be done with commuting, and be able to spend time with your family, do what you want to do when you want to do it, go on vacations when you want to go on vacations, wake up when you want to wake up, and you're probably going, yeah, right, what's this clown talking about? That can't happen. You know, I've got a job. I have to have security, right? You know, but listen, you can do this by flipping houses in your spare time. You know, wholesaling houses. That means you don't have to have any cash. You don't have to have any credit. You literally can get a property under contract. That means you can find a motivated seller, right? Maybe they inherited a property. That's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about inheritance, inherited property. And let's say they inherited a property and then they want to get rid of it. They inherited it and they want to be done. It's been vacant. It needs repairs. I want to get rid of the property. Well, guess what? You can market to that particular seller. They call you up. You say, okay, I want to get the property under contract, right? And you get it under contract for a price. Let's say the house is worth $100,000. You get it under contract for $50,000. And you say, okay, well, listen, we're going to buy it cash and we're going to close in 30 to 45 days. Now, what do you have? You have a purchase contract. Now, that is a sellable asset. Okay? That purchase contract gives you controlling interest in the property. Now you have the ability to turn around and market that property for sale to a cash buyer. Now that cash buyer could be buying the property for several different reasons. They could be buying the property for buy and hold. They could be buying the property to fix and flip it. Or they could be buying the property to live it for themselves. Who knows? But you can market to a cash buyer, and let's say you market it for $60,000, right? 40% off of market value. And they come in, and they will close quickly. Typically, my contracts with a buyer is they put a $2,500 non-refundable deposit and they close in 7 days. So what happens is now you have two contracts. You have a contract with a seller for $50,000, a contract with a buyer for $60,000. You take both those contracts and you bring them to a closing agent. You know, some states have attorneys that close. Some states have escrow and title companies. You bring it to a closing agent and you instruct them to do two different things. One, either you can do an assignment, right? That means you sell your contract. Or two, you do what's called a simultaneous close or a double escrow, a back-to-back close. Now, a back-to-back close is when the buyer wires in $60,000 to the closing agent, of which $10,000 goes to you and $50,000 goes to the seller. The seller's happy because guess what? They didn't have to go and list it. They didn't have to go through people walking through the house. They didn't have to fix anything on the inspection. They could get in and out of the property quickly. The buyer's happy because he's got 40% equity and you're happy because you walk away with $10,000. It's a win-win-win situation all the way around. That's what this podcast is about. Now, here's the deal. You could do this one time a month and make $10,000. You could do this 5 times a month and you can make $50,000 a month. You know, in December, I flipped over just under 20 properties in 1 month. And I do this full time. This is my full-time gig, and I do the podcast and share this information just because I love this business. I love real estate, right? But the bottom line is that I run a full-time business here in Phoenix, Arizona. I contract with sellers. I sell them to buyers. I have a buyer's list, and they do exactly what I do. But I do 7 to 10 to 15 to 20 deals a month. Every single month, and it's a blast. And it gives you the freedom to do what you want to do when you want to do it. And I can tell you, you know, people say, oh, you can have the rich and the famous, you know, that's all well and good, and you can do that with real estate. But you know what's better than all that? Is being able to wake up and be there when your kids get to wake up for school, and you get to be there when they get home, and you get to spend time with your family, and you get to go on vacation when you want to go on vacation. I have a summer house in Dana Point, California. We go there for the summers. I take the whole summer off, man, and we're at the beach all summer. It's a blast. I love the summers. So the bottom line is it's the freedom to do what you want to do. That's why this is called Flip2Freedom. Now, I wrote a book that'll explain the entire process from start to finish. It's called The Ultimate Real Estate Investing Guide and How to Quit Your Job in 19 Weeks or Less by Flipping Houses in Your Spare Time. Now, you can go get that at Flip2Freedom.com, and it's free. It's a 129-page book. I've had people tell me they've spent over $1,000 for the same information that I give away for free. Okay? Now go to Flip, the number 2, freedom.com, and you can download that book for free. You'll see a video of me on the front page, and then just put your email address in there, and I will email you a special link where you can download that book. All right? So now, I'm in iTunes, I'm on the BlackBerry, I'm on Stitcher, I'm on TuneIn, I'm all over the place here. You can listen to it anywhere, but in iTunes particularly, there are people that went in and submitted reviews because of their love for the podcast. So right now I have 129 five-star reviews, and one came in recently. It's a 5-star from Vile0110. I think that's Violet or Vile0110, and January 22nd, 2012. It says, great information for real estate investing, including the ins and outs on how to start and guidance to make it long-term activity. Sean Terry, also provides valuable interviews and relevant guests. I truly enjoy listening and plan on using this information and being my journey in real estate investing. Well, thank you so much for submitting that review. I greatly appreciate it. Now, what are we going to talk about in this particular episode? We are going to talk about inheritance. See, when you're marketing for motivated sellers, there are different lists you can target. There's the list, and then there's the mail piece. You can mail to the list, okay? And my favorite list by far is the inheritance list, and we are going to talk to the owner of usleadlist.com. His name is Lance Fulton, and we're going to get in detail on exactly why this list is so good. I love the list. And he's going to talk about what he has to do to actually get the list, how the list works, how to handle the calls from these particular people calling in, what type of mail piece he uses. We're going to talk about pretty much everything and uncover exactly why this is probably the best list on the market today to mail if you're getting started. If you're brand new and getting started and you say, hey, listen, how do I find motivated sellers? We'll call up Lance at US Lead List, and guess what? Orders list, send some mail out. You'll have people calling you, right? And you just got to figure out if they're motivated or not motivated, which we explain exactly how to do in this particular episode. And then you get the property under contract, just like we said. Then you sell it to buyers. And it's a phenomenal thing. So we're going to go through in detail. Again, in this podcast, I'm known for holding nothing back. He's going to hold nothing back. And we're going to get really in depth on exactly how to work the inheritance list, why the inheritance list is my secret weapon, and how it can be yours too. So, enough of my jibber jabber. Let's get into the meat here, and let's meet Lance Fulton and get right into this interview right now. All right, this is the interview you have been waiting for. And you're going to learn a ton of information in this call, and I am lucky to have Lance Fulton on the line from usleadlist.com, and we are going to talk about, well, I told you what we're going to talk about in the intro, but we're going to dive in on exactly why this is the most profitable list you can mail, and he's going to tell us kind of how he tripped across it in his story and why it is the best and why it is different from all the other lists you can mail in the marketplace when we're marketing for motivated sellers. So Lance, how's it going?
Hey, great, Sean. Thanks for having me.
You sound phenomenal. And just for people listening, we had a little technical issue with the phone. We recorded actually an entire interview, and the phone, for some reason, it didn't pick up his phone, and so we are now, Lance is on Skype, and we have we're ready to deliver some phenomenal content. So let's get into it, Lance. Let's talk about how how'd you get in the list business in the first place?
Okay. I started in the mortgage business back in 1978, so let's go way back. And I used to lifeguard, I used to teach swimming. So a lot of this I relate to the swimming lessons kind of thing. For me, I'm more of an introvert. So when I went out, I wanted to go out and make money in the mortgage business. I knocked on doors, I handed my cards out, I talked to people, and I worked really hard, and nothing happened. And I made a U-turn one day and stopped by my appraiser's office, and I was talking to him, and I said, things aren't working real well, da-da-da. Let me look at, what do you got here? And I started looking at one of his books, and it was a comp book. And like I said, I'm kind of an introvert, so I like to read a lot. And so I took a look at this comp book, and down at the bottom there were some codes, and it had interest rates, it had dates, and it had this and that. And he says, well, I need that book when I do my appraisals so I can get accurate dates and numbers and things. And I said, do you have these books from 2 years ago? And so he did, and the interest rates 2 years ago were 14%. This was back in 1985, okay, and we were at 9%. So I said, my gosh, if we contact these people and tell them we can save them, $322 per month, they'll probably call the office. So I worked for a big bank, and I wasn't very good at writing the letters, but I was good at putting the list together. So I stayed up nights highlighting these books, and pretty soon I found a microfiche machine, and this is the old days again.
Right.
And I started lining it all up, and we did our first mail out. And on our first mail out, we popped 7 loans off 100 letters. So the guys went wild. Everybody jumped on the bandwagon. In 4 months or 3 months, we had 400 loans in the office, and I was pretty much dubbed the list king. So from then on, it's crazy. From then on in the mortgage business, what happened is everywhere I went, different companies, these guys would continue to follow me through the years and see what I was doing. Sure, they wanted to see how you were, but they also wanted to find out what you were doing for business. So with the list, everything led from that original list to everything else. In the mortgage business, if the rates aren't low, nobody wants to talk to you, right? So I decided I had to flip the table, and this is very important right here. You have to flip the table. You want people needing you. So what do I mean by that? Well, when you're working interest rates and the market's down and you're selling, 5% different in interest rates, sure, that's easy. I send them a letter, they can save money, fine. So I went after the bad credit market. In 1988, I started doing all the turndowns for Wells Fargo and B of A in San Diego. It's before the web came out. It's before the internet hit and all that. And it was pretty much the best business ever. I had about 35 bankers in town that I dealt with all individually, and I kept everything separate, and I drove a very, very average car and parked in the back of the lot. And pretty much all these guys, when they'd get a loan that fell apart, they'd send it to me. So that honed my skills even better at doing the rough loans. And I figured out that, look, these people really need the help. So when the market changed and the banks went onto the internet and went into the 800 numbers, they basically said, no more turndowns. That business was dead, and I was faced with a real decision, which most of your people are faced with at times. Your best ideas come when you're at your lowest. So I had to change my business again, and I said, what person needed our help the most? And I said, well, the bankrupt customer can't get loans. They just can't get helped. And I said, in 1995, credit scoring was coming out, and everybody was going on the good road, but Lance chose to go to the other side. Well, now, why? Well, the key is the target. We can hit that target for a 22-cent stamp back in the old days. Everybody had a Chapter 13 bankruptcy. I had honed my skills working for Wells Fargo and B of A, so I knew how to do that rough loan. So we started out with small lists, again, that I did my testing on and figured out what worked and what didn't. Pretty soon we blew the company up, and we were mailing the whole state about 20,000 letters every other month, and we were doing about 65,000 a week in income. So the way this stuff works is sometimes by accident. There is a lot of different stages of finding a list, but the discovery for me is the most fun when you
it's
find
almost like
something.
when you find a discovery or something, and your hair kind of stands on the back of your neck and going, holy cow, this could be huge if you dig into it. Now, I remember you telling me a story where you had this one loan, and it was a guy who was actually flipping a house, and there was this huge profit in it. I think it was like a 6-figure profit, and you kind of looked at where that lead came from. Can you tell that story?
Yeah. Now, fast forward, we're working the bankruptcy. Remember, when I work angles, and when you guys work angles, I'm pretty much painted in my corner. I don't want to look at anything else. I only work my angle. So only consider me for the direct mail. This is my angle. But when you look at this particular situation Sean's talking about, this was the next discovery, which is the list we're dealing with now. This is take us back to 2004 in San Diego when I get a call from my appraiser. He said, "Hey, Lance, what's the deal with this house?" And he goes, I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, the lowest I can appraise it for is 405. Your client's buying it for 300. Now, when you run a mortgage office, you got lots of loans going on. Remember, I told you I only work my angle. I only worked bankruptcy, so I didn't care about this other deal. But when he said, 405 versus 300, I said, hold the phone. Let me go take a look at the file. So I started digging through that file again, on the hunt, looking for something. And I saw a walker in the corner of the room. I saw no furniture in the house. I saw a hoist above the bed. I saw a $7,000 termite report attached to the property. And I said, I looked at the title report and I saw family trust. I said, bingo, this looks like an inherited property to me. And again, it didn't come off my angle. So whenever I look at something, I try to track back and look at how the angle came to me. What is this? What's going on? Well, this guy it's a for sale by owner deal. This guy hit this deal by accident, and he was knocking out of the park in the hottest market I've ever seen in San Diego in my life. 2004, there was plenty of houses being sold. The market was rocking and rolling. How can a guy sneak in and make $105,000? So I said, bingo, that's the list. And so we went after it. And it took us about 3 years to put it together, and we've been out since '07, and that's the list we have today. It's strictly,
Yeah, so it's, and for people listening right now, what he's talking about is what's called the inheritance list. And that is U.S. lead list number one, product that they have, that their service they provide is an inheritance list. Now let's kind of dissect what this inheritance list is and why and what I'm going to tell you. I think I found you guys a couple of years ago, and I've been consistently mailing your list, and it's been a great list to mail. And I like it, because you have two different things. You have motivation and you have equity. So let's tell listeners now why, this list is something that has people. Why does it have motivation, and why does it have equity?
Okay. First of all, I did loans for 25 years. So when you do that many loans, you remember what age you put on the application. So I know who borrows money and who doesn't. The group that doesn't is the older age group, and they hold most of the equity in the country. So our feeling is when the phone call comes in, if you want to be at your best, you want equity phone calls coming in all the time. So there's no reason to mail the younger age group. We stay in an older age group. We don't necessarily go to free and clear, but we end up on free and clear a lot because of our older age group. So we stay in the older age group. And then the biggest reason is the inheritance. You have to have a compelling reason to sell at a discount. You guys are looking to buy houses at discount. They're not just going to throw them down and say, hey, here you go, here's my house, take it at half price. You've got to have a reason. So the reason is the most compelling one in the marketplace, and I challenge you to beat me. I challenge you to find a better list. When you look at this marketplace right now, you've got banks in everybody's pocket. There's problems out there. You need 2 yeses when you go to a house. With our stuff, you need 1, and they've got equity. So we have to hide a little bit because, again, when you're in the inheritance market, you can't just march out there and say sorry for your loss. So we've got a full training system. I've got an audio that I give you when you buy. We only sell the list to 3 investors per county, as Sean can attest to. Yep. And we have over 3,000 counties in the nation. Some may have 2 names in them, but we do have 3,000 counties in the nation.
Now let's talk about the process. So the inheritance list is by far, obviously a superior list because obviously you're targeting that, that impending event. There's that motivation there, which I can attest to. When I take the calls from inheritance, people, there is a reason. They have a reason why they want to sell. They inherited a property, and especially if the property is distressed, like you're talking about. There's a termite report, or there's, it's vacant, which a lot of times it is. When you have those type of things, it's amazing because you talk to an inheritance list different than you talk to mailing an absentee owner or even a free and clear property, because you're talking to them and you're not asking them, hey, what do you owe on the property? What's your loan amount or stuff like that? Right. You're just literally looking for the motivation. So, right. and I know it takes a lot to be able to generate this list, and I know you only put it out on a quarterly basis, without revealing your secret, of course, of exactly how you do it. Tell people exactly how how you come about this list.
We can't. No. But, no. The thing is we've been doing it for years. Okay.
Yeah.
So my first thing is let's find all the clients that fit. But I don't want anybody that doesn't fit. So they have to fit on the age group, and then they have to fit for inheritance. So we're not going to the courts. We're doing it with databasing. We database the whole United States. Then I have 2 girls looking for misspelled names. A lot of the data is done in overseas nowadays. So when the data comes in, we're looking to find the N. Carter Trust, which is really the Nathaniel Carter Trust, but I need the N. Well, nobody matches by hand, but U.S. Lead List does, because wow. We have to care about you. If we don't care about your people, in the end, we're not going to be around too long. I limit the sales to keep everybody not overloaded. If they get 10 letters from one area, they're going, hey, what's going on? We want to keep our prospect we want to keep our prospecting easier. You've got your list of the best prospects. We don't know who's going to sell at discount. We have to work the phone anonymously. I don't like to go out and say a lot with my letters. I like to stay anonymous, because when I want them on the phone, I don't want them expecting that I'm looking for a deal.
Right. Okay, that's I agree with 100%. So let's talk about now a person that wants to get started, and they go and say, "Listen, I like this. The list sounds interesting." First off, how do they get a hold of you?
Well, you want to call our office or go on the website. What I would do first, the first plan I would do is pick your county, whatever county you're in, and right. Then I would work, per Sean, I would work 45 minutes to an hour. This is the way I would do it. I would work 45 minutes to an hour circle around your place of operation, if it's your house or your office, and those are the counties you want to work. Now, why? We work a vertical market. I'm not working a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. I may be working a 5-bedroom, 3-bath house. I only work with their story. If there's a story behind this inheritance, then we're going after the house. If there's no story, then we let them pass. That's the way I work the game. And
okay, so let's take it through the process here so people
sure.
understand. I'm going to take it through. Okay, so the first thing they would do, determine the county that you're in, of course,
right.
that you want to target. Then the next thing you want to do is you want to call Lance. Go to usleadlist.com, call Lance on there, talk to him. Now make sure you reference. Yeah, go to the website.
Just put in the county, Sean, and get a quote for Terry. We get loaded up with calls, and we'll take the calls, But, if you want to go to the website, put in your counties, and then send them over, and then you can call anytime. We're typically here Pacific time, 6:30 a.m. to probably about 4 Pacific.
Right. So, once you put in your county and you figure out your county, then what's going to happen is you're going to get a count and to see if they're, first off, are they sold out in that county or are they not sold out? So he'll let you know if it's sold out or not. Hopefully it won't be when you call in. And you come out with your list every quarter. Is that correct? And typically when? You come out with it, what, in January? You come out with
January, April, July, October.
Okay, January. So you're in the midst of the county. So call in right now, and if they're available, then they will be able to sell it to you. Now, so you'll get a count of the particular county that's in there. Then from that point, what happens? They get the count, and how is this list delivered?
We email it, and it's in Excel. And again, we only give you last names. We do not give first names. This is a very sensitive product, and we found that it works better to work with just the last name.
Okay. So now last name. And what mail piece do you recommend?
Well, my thing, I've got a couple different recommendations. I like the yellow letter like you like.
Yep.
I'll even take it one step further and maybe not address it to directly to the people. I'll maybe step back a little bit further and stay dear homeowner, because the yellow letter is so fantastic. It gets people to call, but again, I want people thinking that I'm a general marketer. I don't want to think that I'm coming to them directly for inheritance, or they will change their tune with me on the phone.
Right. Okay, so you have your specific letter. I use the yellow letter in this particular case, and for people that don't know what a yellow letter is, it's basically a personalized letter. So it would say, "Dear Smith family." And I think it says like I'm interested in buying your house at so and so address, and it's personalized addressed. Please call me if you have interest, and then a phone number. It's handwritten. It's on a yellow piece of paper. There is it's like a yellow invitation-style envelope. It's handwritten with a live stamp. So there is that way. Now the response rate's high on that, and it's a lot of curiosity when people come in. But if you have the good phone voice and you can work with people, then you can discover and build a rapport with them, and they might not want to sell now, but what I've found, if you have a good follow-up system with these people, then they will eventually want to sell down the road. I've had some of the best deals come. I may mail an inheritance list in January, and I may get the deal in June. Just because of follow-up and because I've built a rapport with them. So, which is great. So now, so they send out the letter. And whether it be your letter or whether it be a yellow letter, or it could be a postcard or whatever you want to send out, and they could do that themselves, or they could have a mail fulfillment company do that. And I know you guys are coming out with something like that. Right. So that would be so you want to get the letters out. Now, would you suggest if a county has say 700, like Maricopa County is typically 750 to 800 in our particular county for a list. Would you recommend mailing them all at once or block mailing them?
I'd block mail them most likely. It depends on a person's experience, Sean. You need to bring people into this slowly. If they come in too quick and they get hit with 100 phone calls off the yellow letter, they're not ready. They're not ready. First of all, we've got to work on how we bring them into the call. I work on them how they bring the call together. When somebody calls me, again, I state what we do. Oh, okay, you got a letter. All right. Well, I'm a house buyer. I buy throughout the county. I do these mailings throughout the year. I don't buy listed properties. Do you have a house for sale? Now I try to segue them into my script. If they go into my script, then we're playing ball. If they don't go into the script, I let them go. Right. And if you're not selling, there's no reason to continue.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So it's in what you did in there for people listening is that he can control the conversation. So when someone called in, he knew exactly what questions to ask and where he wants to go with them. Now, give us an idea of what your script says and talks about and stuff like that.
Basically, the script, when I get a live player, you want to bridge them from the call and convert them into the player. So for me, again, I want to remain anonymous. And when I'm remaining anonymous, they're looking at that letter and they're seeing what I sent. Then they're calling up and they don't know much about me. They don't have a website to look at for me. I put no websites on my letter ever. This is this is pure direct mail. They're coming in and you and I can roll with the whole deal. Now, me being not a great house buyer, but being very good on the phone, I believe that you should concentrate your phone work with myself, and then when you move to the house buy, listen to Sean has so many ways to get that going. But there's a couple things on the phone. Like I said, I'm going to bridge them over. I'm never going to talk about money with this crowd. What I want to do is move them right into my script and go, as soon as they say they have a house for sale, I move right to the name. Oh, okay, great. Hey, thanks for calling. What's your first name? Okay, Carl. All right. What's your last name? All right, Johnson. Okay. What's the address of the property, Carl? Okay. City. All right. State. Okay. And then when I get to their zip code, I'll say, "Oh, Carl, what's your zip code over there?" Then what I do is I come back and I change my voice a little bit, and this is kind of the trick that I use to get them to tell me what's going on. I'll say, "So, Carl, what's your reason for selling?" And I don't say anything else. And that's
the secret. You got to shut up. Shut up, because and there'll be a pause of silence,
right.
And then what are they thinking? They're thinking, well, am I selling? Well, maybe I am selling. Well, and then they give you a reason why they're selling.
Yeah.
It's great question.
Our timing, what we're trying to do is just time this thing out correctly. And like I said, a lot of people, if you're really into foreclosures and you're working that crowd, you need to learn a little bit and try our stuff, because the foreclosure market is a fast market. There's a lot of letters hitting the street and stuff. We've got a very select group here, and when you're working on this type of an angle, what happens is you can get some bigger profits. Some of these guys are really selling low. I've had some guys flip houses for $60,000. Are you kidding me? $60,000 on a flip? I had two partners back-to-back flip houses for $70,000 in Washington. What the heck is special about Washington? I mean, I thought $70,000 would be a California number. We've got a guy working on a remodel overlooking the Golden Gate Bridge right now, putting $500,000 into the house. So yeah, don't kid yourself. We know what we're doing.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, it's and we'll get into stories and stuff. Okay, so now they're talking to the people, and what I got to stress, and I think you stressed it as well, is that when they call in, you want to make sure you take control of the conversation, and your main thing that you want to do is sense that story of motivation. Now know that they want to sell, or they maybe not sell now, or they might want to sell now, but you're trying to find that. So what's the reason for selling is a great question that they'll call in, and then you'll build that type of rapport with them and talk to them. Now they have equity, so then the thing you want to do now is then in turn book the appointment. And if you sense motivation, book the appointment, get your information together, and then you want to go on that appointment and meet these people and continue the relationship as fast as possible. Now, and then it comes, obviously, that's the whole case. Now, I have people ask me what to do with return letters. What do you do with those?
Okay, well, our company's a little different. We know that we deal with returns on this market because I put you to the house. So when you're dealing with the house, they may not have any relatives or whatever, and the letter may come back as non-deliverable because it was the only person in the house. When it comes back to your P.O. box, we'll give you credit. You just need to count up your letters and direct that back to Terry, and we'll give you credit back for your return.
Yeah, which is great. I don't think any other list provider does anything like that.
Yeah.
No, nothing at all. Okay.
Yeah,
so that's awesome. So, and so now what happens is I guess my question now is that for the process of going out and getting this, why is your list different from the others? So we're talking about they could mail inheritance. They could mail absentee investors. They could mail probate. And I get a lot of questions. What is the difference between probate and the inheritance list? Can you help us through that?
Probably about 85% more names, and I went down to and a couple less headaches down at the probate court. You can spend hours upon hours down at the court down there getting paperwork. And I took our list down 3 years ago and looked at every name on the list, and I only found 15% of our names in the San Diego courthouse. And again, if you're calling for San Diego, we don't sell our area, so I'm sorry.
Right. And the reason why is obviously you work that market.
Sure.
Okay, so the biggest difference is that in typically so they're not the same names, is what you're saying. So they're different names, of course.
No, yes. I mean, whatever we cross upon that's in probate, Sean, sure, we add it. But, our main thing is we want them all. I want everything. Family trusts, absolutely. The first house I bought was a family trust here in 2004. When I walked into the house, there's no furniture in the house. There's a guy working on a car in the garage, and he looked up at me and says, "Hey man, this isn't my dream. This is my mom's. I want to open up an auto repair shop in Tucson." I saw past due water bills on a card table in the living room. In the loan business, they teach you to look for clues. I saw so many clues that I said I can make money right here. So.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. It is, you have to look for those clues. You have to look for signs of
what's the difference? I mean, what's the difference? I mean, for me, okay, absentee, you're going to have a different angle on the phone with all of these things. But the bottom line is, you're looking for equity, but you need a compelling reason. find me a bigger reason and find me one that people can't get to. You can get to ours after a lot of work, but if you're not willing to do that work, you're not going to get there. And estates and family trust, extremely hard to find. These girls go through 60, 70,000 names a quarter looking for first initials. Nobody's going to do that. They have no time to do that.
Right.
Like I said, you want to buy the houses and I'll answer the phone and we'll just rule the world. We can do it right here.
That's awesome. All right, so how many times do you mail this? What's your follow-up? Would you mail them two times, three times? Would you start with maybe one of your letters and then maybe a postcard or what?
I like, you've convinced me. I like that yellow letter. I've seen the convincing. You get so many calls, and like you said, if we get a chance to romance somebody back into the game who we think was out of the game, sometimes when you get really good at this business, and this is a ways for you guys, first of all, you have to try this, trust yourself. First of all, you have to have belief. If you don't have belief, and
right.
until you make money, you really don't believe. But everybody says to me, no matter how good I've been or whatever, they all say, well, let me check it out. Let me just check it out. Okay, guys, how many times do I have to prove myself? When you come in on this stuff, if you get a good sampling of names, when the phone calls come in, I don't care about the duds. I don't care about one dud. I only care about one winner. If I get a winner on this type of list, we're going to make 3 times what we do on those other lists, and that's what'll prove it to you. When you get a real one, you're looking for the real winner. Anybody in between is just noise. When I get the winners, when I pop them with the question, when I say, so Carl, what's your reason for selling? And he comes back running all over the place in 2 seconds and says this, I got this going on, I got that going on. Boom, there's your guy. There's your guy right
yep.
there. And it doesn't change from Baltimore to Colorado to Florida to South Carolina to North Carolina. They're all the same. I've got a guy who bought 28 names down in Holt Summit, Missouri. So all of you from Holt Summit, Missouri, we told him to go take his wife to dinner. He bought the 28 names and he only got 2 phone calls. Now some people would say, God, that's terrible. That's really didn't get very many calls. Well, he made $6,000. No, he made $6,000 off 2 phone calls.
That's awesome.
Flipped a house, made $6,000. One of your guys from Virginia mailed an area that's abandoned, and he called me right after the first list and said he made $8,000. Lindale Alston, I remember his name. He's down in Virginia. He popped a house real quick down there and made $8,000 out of an area that he said was kind of falling apart. So.
I made 17. My first mailing, I made $17,000 off of an inherited property in Central Phoenix. That the guy was out of Houston, Texas. He actually flew in. He got my letter, and it's amazing because I think the letter actually went to him. Or maybe it went to the house. I'm not 100% sure, but he got my letter. He had it there. He had me come down. I went around and looked at the house. I gave him an offer, and he kind of sat on it and for about 2 or 3 days. And he called me back and said, "Okay, let's do it. You seem like straight up guy. I've talked to a couple other people, but I just don't really trust them." And we did the deal. I turned around and flipped it, made $17,000. And actually, I did a deal not just a couple weeks ago. Made about a $23,000 profit. In this particular deal, same type of thing. Inherited property was the mother's. The guy's out of state. He lived in Reno. Came down. Was trying to get the property all fixed up. He didn't know if he wanted to do it himself. He was older, and the place was a mess, a disaster area, but we got under contract for $95,000, which he was good with. When I told him the number, it was fair to him. He was like, "Yeah, that's a fair offer. That's great. It seems, if you can get it done and not have a hassle, then perfect." And this is the thing. And there's always people wonder why, they're like, "How do you get so many deals?" They ask me. Is because, one part of this is number one is mailing obviously a great list, right? And also picking a good mail piece to mail the great
Absolutely.
list. But the other thing too is when you're dealing with these people, instead of just trying to go after the house, try to find out what you can do to turn around and what do they need help with. So this guy came down from Reno. He was alone. didn't know anybody, and he had a couple people down the street that said they would help him out but didn't. But he had all this valuable stuff that was his mother's or family's or whatever that was at the property, and he had to go get a trailer, and he had to load up this trailer with the stuff, and the guy's 70 years old and he couldn't do it himself. So I didn't even make a deal on the house. I looked at the house, but I said, hey, maybe we can help you out. So Corey, my partner assistant, worked with me, and he said, hey, what if Corey was going to come over, and I helped him load up some stuff that night, and I said, what if Corey could come over and help you out tomorrow? Would that work for you? And so Corey showed up in the morning, helped him for the entire day, helped him load up his house. Now, we didn't have a contract on the house. We talked about price and stuff like that, but that was secondary. We turned around and said, what can we do to help this guy? And we got all the stuff loaded up, got everything. He was unbelievably grateful, and then said I wouldn't sell to anybody. And when I showed up at the property, there was 2 other investors and another investor walking around the property taking measurements. That's when I showed up, because he just started calling everybody, right? He got my letter and he started calling everybody and realtors and people just to see what he could do with the house. But guess what? None of those guys got the deal. We got the deal. Number one is because obviously the guy was motivated, and number two, we actually found out how we could serve the guy the best way, and we helped him load all the stuff. And then that Saturday we signed the contract and turned around and sold. A couple weeks later, made $23,000.
There you go.
So yeah, it's so I tell people, it's yes, you can have a great list, and yes, you can have a great mailer, but then it's you, the person, yourself. Yeah. What are you going to do to separate yourself from every other person? You're just going to be the guy that's going to walk around with a tape measure to try to see if you can make a buck on the house? Or are you going to you're really going to talk to this guy and say, listen, how can I really help this guy?
Yeah.
So
you got a lot of different personalities out there, so,
yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
Your thing, Sean, the thing is, you're a worker. You called me late at night, so I'm going to give you extra time, but you called me late at night. We were working the first time we sold you the list, and you wanted tips and things on the phone, and because this was like pushing 5:30 or 6 o'clock here in San Diego, and you were working going to a client, so I know you work. You don't have to, you don't have to tell me. I know you're a worker. But the main thing for people to understand is having money. If you have money, well, that's good. But when you start this type of plan, you don't have to necessarily have money. You have to have that belief, because if you put your money out and you mail the wrong letter, or you don't take the phone calls, or you don't deal with the people, and you miss this thing, then you've spent some money and you haven't gone anywhere with it. So, start with a plan, and then work the phone and kind of see how everything connects. And in the end, when you get that house, it'll all feel good. But you can start with a little bit or a lot, but the main thing, the system's still the same, whether you're big or you're small. You want to be big? Mail 750 names a quarter on our list. Mail it twice. Start with a yellow letter. Roll back with our letter, and it'll happen. I had a guy come in fresh from Europe, mail our list out of L.A. I told him the same thing. He bought a little more names than that. He was in L.A., our biggest county, and did a $75,000 check. Problem was, he left people in during Christmas time, and they burnt down the kitchen. Then he told me they were going to make more money because the insurance company.
The insurance claim was going to come in and go in and fix up the property.
The key is knowing what you guys have. The key is knowing what you have. You're working foreclosure. Look, they're running. They're running from that house. If you're working road signs, bring them right in on the script right away. Just say, oh, great. Hey, thanks for calling. What's your first name? Okay. What's your last name? All right. City, state, and zip. Then pop them with the question. What's your reason for selling, Bob? And then, boom, get the story. The story moves everything. If you have the story, it moves everything.
All right. So what's one of the best stories you've heard for one of your students that recently the flipped house?
Well, the best. I mean, there's so many. There's so many.
Now, but this is the thing. You also talked about. I mean, there's people who buy your list that are wholesalers like me. They don't touch the they don't touch it. They go in, they like me, contract it and turn around and sell it. But then there's guys that use it for fix and flip. Instead of them going to the auction and bank-owned properties and all this stuff, they'll do it for fix and flip. And I know you had a great story with a guy that did a fix and flip on a property.
The one in Portland?
Yeah.
The big one?
Yep.
Well, the big one. Okay. I had a guy in Portland a year ago who buys at the auction, and big time guy, and a lot of the big time guys come in and they want to go to blows, and I won't mention his name. Very nice guy, but he asked me the same question 3 times at 3 different conversations. Everybody's afraid of this thing. Like, wow, what is it? Where does it go? What do I do? Look, this is my best mailing list that I could come up with to buy houses. I've probably got 90 testimonials around the nation right now from everywhere. I've got people in Alaska. I've got people in Hawaii. So anyway, he questioned me and asked me all this stuff. I said, look, I used to do it with databases in the mortgage business. He said, I'm a house buyer. I buy at the auction. I usually go down with 3 or 4 checks a week. I buy 3, 4 houses a week. I said, okay, we'll take the list for a spin. Anyway, so he mailed out the list. I never heard back from him. Next list was coming up, and what I do is I always call the clients and find out how they did. And I called him up, and he goes, I've been waiting for your call. He goes, I hit the Loch Ness. And I go, well, I'm 55. What's the Loch Ness? I go, I don't understand. He goes, I knocked it out of the park. On my first mailing, I found a house. We're going to make $150,000 doing the rehab on the house. And first list in Portland, and now again Portland is all scooped up and nobody can get up there because everybody's there. Much like we've got a lot of problems in the Baltimore area too. We've got a lot of people out there, and then Colorado too. But this thing is just, it's based on an angle, and if you're willing to play with it for a while and work with it, you can work small or you can work large. I mean, I've got another guy in Jersey right now, just popped a house for $38,000. He was about ready to give up. He lost one for 20. He had it for 20, then something else happened. Things are going to happen to you people when you get started in this business. It's not easy. If you ask Sean, how was the beginning? Well, you're not hearing about the beginning. I'm sure he had some problems putting things together. Things just don't roll down for Lance and Sean Terry. They happen, and you learn on the way up. And if you don't learn on the way up, then you're not ready for the game. This game is an interesting game. There's going to be some wins and there's going to be some losses. But the wins, if you work the plan correctly, the wins are going to feel real good. I always tell people I like to get real low to the ground. I like to wash those dishes. I like to wash those dishes and stay right down on the job till I figure it out. Once I figure it out, then I'm in the game. And that's the way you guys need to work this thing. I mean, he's got so many weapons, you could go blind with all Sean's weapons. But start with one. I want to be your anchor. I want to be your anchor to marketing. And I'll show you one thing. These lists are all a little bit different, so you need to try them all. But with ours, I mean, I can tell you this. I'm looking for equity, and I'm looking for somebody to do a deal. When they get on the phone, I'm going to push them through my script. If I don't get the answer I want, then I'm going to consider them not motivated. I'm going to ask them that question one time. So, Carl, what's your reason for selling? And I'm going to blast them real good. If they don't give me the answer back, then I'm going to consider them a later prospect. Right. That's the way it works. When you're in the real game, when you're in the game, I've done this all my life. When you're in the game, there's different things that matter. When I was doing the bankruptcies, I have to talk to somebody, and if I'm going to pay off that bankruptcy, Sean, I have to know, is this guy telling me the truth? So I have to ask him the same question, camouflage, 3 times. If I don't get the same answer, then guess what? Out the door, I'm not doing the deal.
Right. Yeah, I look at it like this, you're just stacking the deck in your favor, and what you're doing is when you're marketing to an inheritance list and they have equity and they know they have a compelling reason, what it does, it just increases your odds to be able to get that deal for the less amount of mailers. When I mail absentee owner, which I do, then it's I'm kind of blanketing the market, hoping to find an absentee investor that a tenant moved out and I hit them at the right situation in their life. Well, we know there's a situation with the inheritance, so it pretty much, for people that are starting out, I always tell people when the people get started, the first thing you do, call Lance, get a list, see if they're available, and then mail it with a Yell letter, and you'll get calls coming in, and you'll get motivation, and you'll get deals. So then they can learn the process of talking to people and ask the right questions that you're talking about. So, yeah. So I think we beat the dead horse on this inheritance. People get it.
To what you said. Let me add one thing to what you said, Sean. Okay, you said they have motivation. I don't know that. I know they have possible motivation. My mom's still in in her house. What I want to do is I want to put them through the system. Once I put them through the system, then I find out. I have to ask those questions correctly because, again, I'm thinking in the back of my head, yeah, there's possible motivation, but not until we get them on the phone. That's what I'm saying. When I was in the loan business, you really can't put somebody else doing your work. Answering services, not for me. Not for me. I want to feel them on the phone. And if I feel the deal on the phone, you and I are going, we're making money.
Right. Absolutely.
I mean, that's it, really. You know, I mean, haven't you had anybody that you know, like the foreclosure market, really, it's a whole different set of questions. You really hammer somebody, you're looking, these people aren't, we don't know if our people are selling. We know they've got equity and they've got a reason to sell, possibly, but I've got to work them through the system. So.
Well, this is the thing. Foreclosure market, and I worked it pretty heavy. Foreclosure market, you better have your flak jacket on. You better have your Kevlar, helmet on.
Yeah,
you better have, because guess what? You're going to get attacked and attacked hard because you're dealing with someone who, is in financial distress, and a lot of them want to stay in the house, and it's just more a financial thing, and they're very, very distraught and in a very bad place. Whereas, inheritance is, yes, it's a tough situation in their lives, but you can come in as the problem solver and take that property where they don't have to go fix it up, they don't have to go do anything to it, they don't have to list it, they don't have to deal with doing repairs on the property to try to get it up to financing so they can get the property financed, so you can come as pretty much a savior and save the situation, and also make a profit as well. So cool. So if someone wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way to get a hold of you, Lance?
Call the phone number or email us with those counties. Phone number is 866-711-1688. Find us on the web at www.usleadlist.com.
So they can talk to you, Lance, or Terry, right?
Or Terry, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And make sure, people listening, you mention my name or Flip2Freedom, and they will give you a discount, which is which is great, because let's talk about what is your typical list cost, so people understand when they call, they know exactly what they cost.
Yeah, it's $1.40 per name, below 500 names, first time you buy, with the Sean Terry discount. When you're above 500, you're at $1.35 per name. A typical county, when you get into a decent metropolitan area, you're looking at 300 to 500 names. When you get into large counties like the Houston market, or not San Diego, but Los Angeles or Chicago, you can have 1,500 names, no problem. So.
Right. So now, like I said, you don't have to mail all of them right at once, but it's something you want to scale into and make it a part of your mailing. And I always tell people, start off with what you can do. Mail them, get the calls coming in, get a deal coming in. And that guy that made $6,000 on 28 names. So if he gets $6,000, he can turn around and reinvest 15% back into marketing. Well, guess what? He can buy the rest of whatever list he can get as many names as he can, or maybe even expand into a different county if he wants to do that. Then start adding other different weapons to the arsenal, to where he can do more and be more. So that's awesome.
Absolutely,
Lance, you've been great.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. You've been great too. It's been fun working with you. We enjoy working with your people and you, and continued success to you. And you come up with so many ways to buy houses. I think pretty soon you really can do it from outer space.
I don't know about outer space, but I like the beach too much, so, just like you. So, all right, so this is it for the Flip2Freedom, this particular interview, and go to usleadlist.com, talk to Lance and Terry. They're great people. They'll educate you, help you through the process, and make you feel comfortable. And the good thing about it is it doesn't matter what, if you're brand new and you're just getting started, or if you're an experienced investor, this is something that can fit right into your marketing piece, that you can go out and increase your income. So, I recommend it highly. I've mailed it countless amount of times and continue to mail it. And if it's available, I just sometimes I have to just jump on it. Or I gotta cut a deal where I can just with lands to just get Maricopa County. But is what it is. That's the way it works. And there are people here in the Phoenix market that are still mailing the list, and they're popping deals left and right, which is great. So, all right, Lance, thank you so much for your time, and God bless.
Thank you, Sean, and anytime you want to have me back, I'm here for you.
Sounds good. Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Okay, thanks.
All right, bye.